She's switched over to the other side. You might notice that Melissa's ambidextrous. She's using her right arm now where she's using her left arm before. This actually helps a lot in the process in getting the right angles. But you also see that her blade will stay in one spot, but the handle will actually move across to the other side of the mouth. She's also using rotation of her wrist, arc of about 180 degrees, and she'll also drop the handle up and down. So it's a three-dimensional thing. And what we like is, in our hand-eye coordination, we're able to take a float blade and we're able to lift it up and touch the tip of it to our nose without even looking. We know exactly where the end of that blade is. And so we're constantly maneuvering and manipulating that blade head to get in the right spot. Because teeth are not like a layer of bricks or a row of bricks lined up perfectly. They curve up, they curve in, and they have undulations all the way back. Those undulations I call nooks and crannies because I like the words nooks and crannies. She's just switched over to a long, slimmer blade that doesn't have as much thickness. It also has a very acute angle, so she can now work her way back in the very back teeth and work around the last cheek tooth and get behind and up and around it to make sure it's comfortable and smooth. She also uses a flat grit blade, and sometimes these things can get in spaces that other blades can't. She's going to start working on the first cheek teeth. The first cheek teeth are really important because if they've never been addressed before, they have the conformation that looks like the bow of the Titanic. It's very sharp and pointed. And our job is to turn that into the bow of a tugboat, which is smooth and rounded. The purpose of this is, when you place a bit in the horse's mouth, it often tends to pull in soft tissue. And soft tissue can trap between the upper and lower first cheek teeth. And as it gets pinched there, that pinching action can send a horse into a tizzy and give all sorts of fussing and fighting until they get comfortable with it. If they have excessive soft tissue in that area, there's a term that we use called flabby cheeks, which is just excessive tissue. If you go to my website, there's a picture of flabby cheeks on there, an article called Flabby Cheeks. And sometimes one picture is worth 1,000 words. It drapes loosely in between the first cheek teeth and gets pinched, and it can actually have a callus. And many horses I can float and do just fine until I get the first bottom cheek tooth, and then all bets are off and I have to actually drug them so I can get around that anticipation of pain that these horses have. Sometimes people use a large round bit to get away from that, and in reality it makes it worse. I find that the less amount of hardware that you have in the horse's mouth, the more comfortable they are. So if you're into dressage and you put a double bit in, or polo, or any place where you have multiple pieces of hardware in there, or you're putting in a thick bit and your horse is having problems, try a thinner bit and certainly try and get that first cheek tooth rounded down and find out if they have flabby cheeks. Flabby cheeks are really easy to detect. You stick your thumbs in on each side facing the horse and press down on the bars and move back toward the first cheek tooth. And as you move back, a wave of tissue will build up in front of your thumbs. There's supposed to be a small amount of loose tissues, but if there's an abundant amount, it'll crest over the first cheek tooth. Be careful, you don't want to get your fingers bit. And as it crests over there, that's flabby cheeks, and that's what's being pinched every time the horse bites. So she's just working around that first cheek tooth and rounding enough to make it smooth like a bow of a tugboat, both top and bottom. A little note about canine teeth. Canines are usually found in male horses. They're weapons. They're there to tear flesh. The tongue stropes it. Stroping means to sharpen with a leather strap. Those leather straps the barbers used to use are called stropes, and the action of the razor blade going up and down was stroping. And the tongue is the leather, and it stropes those canines in the sharp dagger, the pointed tip and two sharp edges. We take those down, we smooth them out. We don't eliminate them because they're permanent tooth, but we make sure that they're nice and rounded. If you can catch a canine when they're very young and they're just erupting, you can actually take a small file and file them down to the level of the gum, and you can keep them there and keep them out of action. On occasion, some mares will have a canine tooth, and those are usually aggressive or assertive or dominant type mares. They're like a woman with a mustache. You know, they've got some masculine traits, and it's just the way it is. When I do pre-purchases on horses, if I found a mare with canines, I would warn the owners that this may be a difficult horse to work with, and you need to be aware of that.